Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Stephen Manners, a nutrition and military fitness coach, an entrepreneur, a former Green Beret who provides special operations prep, one-on-one coaching to civilians, soldiers, and officers to help them better on their way. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as we got to nerd out a little bit about fitness, nutrition, and his journey on how he got to where he is. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Stephen Manners, welcome to Lesser Known Operators. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the time today. I'm looking forward to it.
I really appreciate you coming on. We get to, as I said, I get to nerd out a little bit about fitness and some nutrition, which the nutrition is, it kind of falls on the back burner. And then like on the same line as that, the recovery as well when you're in special operations, right? Because that's way down in the priorities of work. Where now in your civilian, you can focus on it and you're like, oh, I got to get my beauty sleep. I got to eat my grams of protein. I got to do all this. Why do you think those things fall away? Because I know now they're trying to invest more money in putting those at the forefront. But why do you think in the past? Was it just the op tempo or just a group
Man,
life?
yeah, that's a good question, and I think it's a lot deeper ingrained than just group or special forces or the operator life. Because in my experience, I talk to a lot of guys that are on the path to that. Some guys that aren't even in the military yet. So whether they're aspiring 18 X-rays or just aspiring 11 Bravos or something, right? That they're going in and they're preparing. Um, these guys all have some common threads, and one of them is just training their little butts off, just running themselves ragged, right? So it's almost like a personality thing that's been there for a minute. So it precedes, being an operator. The baby operators already have this built in to go too hard and go all the time, disregard their body, let not deal with sleep, right? Because you're a man, right? So it's just like whatever you get, you get. Um, so that I mean that's why, because I think it's a behavior that they've always had. As young men, we all go too hard until we don't, and that's kind of the operator thing, right? We do that, then we break, and then retroactively we're looking back and like trying to be like, okay, now let me worry about my recovery and get more sleep. And it's like, man, you that's good, but damage has been done. So um it definitely is coming more to the forefront, like you mentioned. I think a lot of the information that we're all sharing is helping that. And people like new shiny things, right? And so recovery hasn't been a thing, and now it's a thing. So people are getting into it. It's really good. It's an important part of my what I do for work. And now, as a civilian, being out for a few years, like it's the most important part of my fitness and health. The aspect of my life that I dedicate to all this. My sleep routine is sacred, and I get my 8 hours, like, so it's just like a whole paradigm shift, and it's a personality thing, right? I can embrace that as a civilian now because the work I do and the life I lead, but I am also older and wiser. So yeah, man, I think it's a strong will, guys want to go real hard and not show weakness, and it's counterproductive.
Yeah, the sleep for everybody listening at home. The sleep is just as important as as, as you killing yourself in the gym, which isn't even that important. If you get in the gym for three 1 hour sessions a week, that's most of the time going to be more beneficial than 5 hour and a half sessions a week. You know, I'm messing with that right now.
I mean,
But
you
you
want
look
to talk
at
about force multiplier. What we do in the gym makes very specific progressions in a very you know, aspect of our life, like a separate part, performance, right? Strength, whatever, agility. When you unfuck your sleep, you're now getting a breadth of benefits through different avenues of your, body, mind, health, whatever. It's not just about strength and tissue and training and stuff like that. Now, I mean, you talk about all the systems that your body's, working on are going to go up. So that's why it's such a leveraged thing to give your attention to.
because that's the only time we're healing,
Yeah.
right? We're healing and growing during that time. And you say like, advances in technology and then these studies becoming more. When I was a kid, creatine was on the same par as anabolic steroids. People thought they were the same thing. And now the latest studies that are coming out, they're suggesting to give creatine to children and elderly folk because it can offset some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and it can enhance cognitive function. So it's just like one thing. We're starting to realize that, hey, maybe we were doing this all wrong all these years, and we need to get our shit together.
Yeah, man. That's what's really cool about being in this or caring about, your health or fitness or performance or being in this industry. We are so early. We are so early, right? Like from a human performance, whether it's like physical performance or like ergogenic aids, like how do we help the human perform better? Like obviously it's been going on since we've been, a bipedal, whatever, monkey walking around. But like but what bodybuilding has done for that specifically in, the 1900s. Like their supplements haven't the research is recent, the studies are all recent. Like it's so early in the human specimen really being evaluated for performance and ergogenic aids and stuff like that, like creatine. Like we now know that we need to give it to our kids and grandmas, but that's because research has been, working at that for a long time. Creatine is one of the longest studied things, and they're just now finding this out, right? So it's just really cool and exciting that like the expanse of performance, humans being healthy, like bro, it's fucking early, like our great grandkids are going to be flying around on hoverboards looking like, you know, yoked out of their mind and healthy. Or maybe they won't. Maybe maybe
It
they'll
won't.
be too concerned about other things and
They'll all look very gaunt from all the
live in
Ozempic
a
overuse.
virtual reality.
And one to touch on that for one more thing, people listening at home, even if you don't work out, you're not in fitness and you don't go to the gym, you should still take creatine. It has benefits outside of the gym, hydration. They're even saying for treating TBI, it can improve your ability to recover from a traumatic brain injury and things like that. So when I say everybody, everybody should be taking creatine, no matter who you are and what you do. And if you got any questions about that, you can email Steven, and
Yeah,
he will
yeah,
give you an
sure.
in brief. What's the name of your business again?
Men's league coaching. So that's the name of my aspect of my business. It's not the name of my LLC. That is Forever Fit Coaching, which was started in 2021 with my wife. Um, we worked together, for a few years and have since kind of like done our own thing in the coaching space, right? So I got the rebrand to Men's League Coaching for a couple years now.
How'd you come up with? Is that you're specifically catering to the male side of things?
Yeah, man. So just, intertwining a little bit about my story. Originally coaching remotely, I was coaching everybody. So men, women, circle squares, whatever, young, old, huge, tiny, everywhere in between for years doing that, working with my wife. Um, and that was great. It has its challenges when you're working with, everybody. Now I'm working with a very specific person. So that started with just being males, but within a matter of kind of months, that became military guys, past versions of myself. So aspiring, dudes in uniform or that want to be in uniform and that want to go do, better things. Um, so yeah, I coach exclusively men for the most part. I still train. I've had clients for years now and they're awesome. A couple women that are just like great, love working with them. But yeah, who I work with is men. Um, the men's league kind of comes from like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, right? Like it's very like, it touches on the camaraderie side of things, right? Like the team aspect of it, right? So, draws on strings from like ODA vibes, right? And the brotherhood. Um, and really just being men as a client, but also calling men to like be men, because I think that the things that I coach and work with people on, their nutrition, their training, their sleep and stuff, right, the physical aspect of their life, is that's part of being a man. Doesn't mean you're not a man if you don't have it, but part of being a squared away man is not having a shitty food routine and eating like a fucking child and being lazy about your preparations for food and stuff, and not doing your due diligence on something that you do every single day, like eat, rest, and train. So it's, always kind of calling guys up to be, worthy of being, in the men's league.
It makes a big difference. I quit drinking about 13 months ago, right? And and then I was like, okay, we got to get our shit together. And then I started listening to health podcasts and coaching myself because I know it all. I've done it, everything, and then like adding little things, the sleep and the protein and everything. And if you are committed and you just focus in on it, you will be absolutely amazed. And if you get a coach that knows what they're talking about, the differences you can make in a year, you will be absolutely amazed. My wife thinks I look the same, but I don't fit any of my clothes anymore. Like the amount of muscle I've put on from just getting sleep, eating protein, and going to the gym less than I used to do has been absolutely amazing. And you said like the view of like the manly thing, right? I assume a lot of your clients think the manly thing to do is go to some selection during their military service. Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily say they're doing it because they want to be manly, but I mean, I ask potential clients about their why, and a lot of these guys are saying things about rising to the occasion, doing something greater with themselves and making a bigger impact. And these are guys that are already in the service, right? So they're already making an impact, but they literally want more. So I do think it's yeah, rising to the challenge of being always trying to be a better man.
These guys have the false notion that you have to look like me to get through selection when they have no idea. Because if you've stood it, you've been in that final formation at selection and seen the guys standing there, and most of the people are between about 5'8" and 6'2" and about 10 pounds over what the ideal body weight is on the calculator. And that's pretty much the average. Not saying everybody, some guys are, stand out and things like that, but it's not a bunch of big dudes. It's just normal looking people that get through selection that are just ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's a lot of misconceptions about the type of person that gets selected. And it's just kind of a weird, honestly, it's a little weird to be like, I never thought that I would be this far down the rabbit hole, right? Of like getting in the social uh per- perceptions of not even SF, like SFAS and getting selected, right? So it's like, yeah, man, there's guys that you'll see and you look at them and you think like, no way, this guy's gonna make it. And I think that's really important for people to hear is this message right here. You can be strong and capable and fit and durable and not look like it. And this is, I think, kind of your point. It's like the tech and the connection and social media and has us looking at physiques all the time that are unrealistic. Like, you're a big old guy. Um, I'm a lanky hard gainer, like I don't look like fucking Nick Bear, right? I like to at him in my posts. Because he's just all, just fully chiseled up. Reminds me of my buddy I grew up with that from the time we were playing high school football. Coaches call him an anatomy model because he just is, shredded to the bone and huge full muscle belly. It's like, bro, you don't have to look like that to perform. You don't at all, and you don't have to be as strong as an ox. You have to be strong, and you have to, not break. But that doesn't mean hundreds of pounds on an exercise in the gym is what's standing between you and being strong enough for selection, right? So
And it's all about really longevity. This is the selection's short, but then you go to do another school, another school, another school. So you have these ups and downs. So you have to be ready to get through the whole thing, not just smash one and then you're just not ready to go to SUT or you're not ready to go to SEER or things like that. You can really suffer at some of these schools when you're a bigger guy and then you're not getting any food. Well, you're just
yeah,
adding another level of suffering when you're used to one thing and then you're doing another. That's for later on. Being in group is completely different from getting to group.
yeah,
Those are two different lifestyles, and people only see the social media stuff, and you're comparing yourself to hundreds of people, the ones that are actually being in the limelight. Well, this is a polished view that they're only putting out to the public, and they're the ones that beat the algorithm to get to the top. Well, you can't compare yourself to them because there's 100,000 other people in special operations that aren't there, that are just keeping to themselves. Um, and that is kind of what you need to convey to people. I don't know, but why did you get into it? Is it just always naturally been that way, or just once you got out, it started pushing you? Because you said you went to college for it.
Yeah, been in been to college many times. Um, when I so in 2017, um, I ETS'd in 2018, so I was approaching the end of my contract and kind of knew I was getting out, and I started, writing and journaling about being my own boss and starting my own business. That was, so pre. This isn't even like separating from the army. This is before that. Um, you know, realizing what I wanted to do, or at least, what I wanted to look like. And then I was going to, go try to carve my life out in a certain way after this, after my time in the service. And a big part of that was just working for myself. I wanted the latitude and the flexibility. Um, so initially, that notebook was full of stuff like a like security company, right? Or like consulting and trying to like business ideas for using that side of the skill set. Um, and I got out and I moved back home or to my, East Tennessee. Or I don't remember if I'm supposed to say where I'm from, but
You're
I mean it's
good.
all over my Instagram.
Yeah, no, you're good. If you're still on a team,
Yeah, okay.
you
Right.
know, then we
Nobody cares where I
can.
live. Come find me.
No,
Um spice up my day, please. Show up. you know? uh um so I got out and immediately met my now wife, who is she's kind of really the bridge to the coaching side of things. So it's worth, spending a couple minutes shouting her out, especially because she's just so awesome. Um, her dad has been a mainstay in the community here, um, owning a supplement store for like 25 years. Like when I was a kid in high school, I bought my creatine and pre-workout from him, Eddie. And so when I moved back into town, I started working running this store for a veteran couple, um, who gave me the job to manage their shop. My wife was opening her business in downtown Knoxville, literally right next door at the exact same time. It wasn't open yet. So my buddy, who was also a veteran, he's an 11 Charlie, worked there for her. Um, and I helped him like load some coolers into the store and whatever, and met her. And man, from then on out, like there was nothing but 20 feet and a wall separating us. I would leave my post at the shop and go over there, buy protein bars, buy energy drinks, do it 4 times in one shift, just to go
going deep
all
in
around,
debt
right?
just to see the girl next door.
Yeah, man, and it worked like a charm, honestly. So it worked immediately. And so yeah, so met her. She's an athlete and a coach. She's competed in bodybuilding and powerlifting and following in her dad's footsteps of basically being a health guru by the time she graduated college. So she's a coach. She helps lots of women. She's amazing. So that was, I met her. My buddy was huge into fitness too, and started thinking, how am I going to use this GI Bill? Because I had already started in classes, because I had some school to knock out, no matter what kind of field I went into. So I started some classes, but then that had me realizing, like I had trained people for a living. I've always cared about fitness and stuff. So like, let's go, let's learn. So I signed up for a 2 year associates program that was chock. It was 4 trainers, exercise science, associates with a bunch of certifications, in special niches in that, along the way. So super good. Learned a lot. Started working in gyms immediately. Um, and so that's kind of the story of how I got into coaching in general. Like was a good trainer as a Green Beret. Understand how to talk to people. So I'd go teach group fitness in a gym full of people and do personal training 1-on-1, and it was something I'm happy to nerd out about and study up on and become, studied and well read on, because I already did my whole life anyways. I always was a skinny kid who wanted to get bigger. So I was reading bodybuilding magazines, lifting my little butt off, in the early 2000s to try to grow. And so now I truly am one of those guys that sounds corny that like does exactly what he wants to do, which is really cool, like to be able to actually say that and it be true. But who doesn't want to do fucking workouts and for a living, right? And have all the freedom to work from home and stuff like that. So hashtag blessed, but fucking worked for it. And I really love what I do. And that's, I think, why I can do it. I really care about my clients, which is cool. I enjoy being a coach now. We talked about kind of where I started working with men, and the difference between working with these guys now and working with everybody before is, I'm working with my guys, my people. And so it makes the the reciprocating aspect of the work that you do as a service provider like really fulfilling, really good, real natural, right? I don't have to act a certain type of way to talk to somebody, right? I can just be myself. I can be the fucking E6 NCO, which is cool, right? I can tell these guys, I don't have to sugarcoat anything. I can be forward, blunt. They appreciate it. Many of them like, want that and need that. So it's very easy work for me to do. I mean, I work hard, right? But I really enjoy it, and it's very cool to be able to do it for a living.
Everything's pretty much remote for you, right? Then.
Yeah, 100%, man. It didn't start that way, so I started in the gyms as a personal trainer and group fitness coach. But when me and my wife joined forces and started our coaching business, it was remote. Um, Now that's different than being like an Instagram online coach because we started working remotely, coaching app, everything working from home. Um, but all of our clients, almost all of them were local. So there were people that, we both have audiences and communities that we've already built trust with just from hometown stuff, right? And so our clients came flooding in, but they were all local, which is cool. It worked. We do body composition testing at my wife's family business. Like it's great. But I was an online coach, but I wasn't getting clients from online. I was growing and working hard on social media, but it wasn't garnering me clients. That actually didn't really kick off and start happening until I started talking to a specific guy, which is the men that I work with now, guys, the military guys that want to go do more, whatever, Ranger School selection, Air Force Special Ops, like all across the board. Uh, then those guys, when I started speaking their language and on Instagram, the algorithm gods connected us, flooding to my page, big growth, applications, conversations. And that's what the last couple years have been like for me now. So I spent the first few years refining my remote coaching business to everybody, delivering workouts virtually, advising people virtually. We met locally, bod pod tests, right? But all of the coaching was remote. So from remote coaching now to truly online and remote coaching, like all of my clients come from, social media in some form or fashion or referral from somebody that's already done it. And so that part is really just now growing, which is cool and which has been learned a lot in this, kind of transition.
Yeah, you learn something every day with dealing with this. You're right, the algorithm and how you to get to people and promoting yourself,
Social
coming up
media is
with
tough,
posts,
man.
and
It's
it
it's
is.
ruthless too, especially in the beginning, you know. And like I don't have a huge following, right? But in a way, I've figured out a lot of what works in for certain things, at least relates to the work that I do. But man, it's tough.
I don't know. I got an approach to it. I'm happy for every like, every view, every follower, everything. Like I'm not looking at it as like I only get this. I'm like, wow, I got these people to follow me today, and that's so cool. I get this, even if a reel sucks, it only gets a few hundred real views. I'm like, wow, that's way more than zero, and things like
Yeah,
that. So it's
and
all
it's
building
social
on.
media, dude. It's your bridge. It's not the end, right? The views aren't the end. You're supposed to be making connections, and that's where you would rather have a smaller audience that is your people that are more authentic, more that appreciate what you're doing, for the message it sends. It doesn't have to be massive, right? The social media is the conduit to millions. So even if you're speaking, in one specific sending one specific message to one type of person, there's fucking thousands and thousands and thousands of those people, right? So a small page with an audience that trusts you is far more successful in my opinion than a lot of followers or views, um, and without that kind of engagement and back and forth between the people that are your audience.
There's it's such a big market, and I think, well, you've got an interesting market though, as there's a lot of fake people trying to do a real job that you're doing. Are you seeing that a lot in the space?
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, that's on a big picture. Online coaching is that period, and then niche it into special operations or, fitness coach or military coach, and it's still there 100% prevalent. It's easy to look like a coach, and it's easy to have, spent years of your life, doing fitness and think that you can coach people, but it's just no, not the same thing. It's not delivering to people, right? So yeah, you could call them wannabes. A lot of people that do it for the money, selling programs that are half cocked because they have large audiences and they can make money off of that. But people program hop anyways. Nobody's staying on these programs for a long time or taking much away from them anyways if they come out from them unscathed. So there is the misinformation is kind of one thing, shining a light on what's true and what to focus on and what not. But man, from a training standpoint, people are putting out awful guidance for somebody who needs to get in shape for selection, like at every turn. So,
Like what? Like what?
well, it trends along what we talked about earlier with like the work really hard mentality, the smoke yourself right, the two a days, or the CrossFit wads that are just destroying you like repeatedly or whatever. Everyone has their own uh like uh like fetish. Like some guys just want to fucking one rep max all the time. Other guys want to go sell their soul on a CrossFit wad, right? Or other guys will, and this is many guys because they need to improve their running, they'll go fucking run 5 or 6 times a week and at way too high intensities, right? And so the point is these awful programs are not improving people's fitness and they're breaking down their bodies and their readiness. So this matters a lot because a selection prep isn't just 6 or 12 weeks before selection. For many people and where their fitness is at, it's years. It's a years long process, right? And so if you're 12 months out from selection, you're not going to destroy yourself on a SFAS prep program. But guys will do that because they think that's how you train for SFAS. It's like that's how you train for the last 12 weeks before SFAS. You don't destroy yourself 70% of the time, week after week, because you're totally putting a governor on your gains in progress and results, right? You have to feel like you could do plenty more on a regular basis when you're 6 months out from selection, when you're 12 months out. That's where you're improving fitness the fastest. It doesn't feel like it because it's not as hard, or it doesn't destroy you, and it doesn't stroke your ego about you doing a hard workout, right? So these are the bad programs that are out there. The things that are fucking two a days, craziness, unless you're literally weeks from selection and you're ready for that. There's nuance to it, right? But a big part of it is going way too hard and doing way too much of whatever it is, either one thing or everything. um, Too much frequency, nonsense in exercise selection, way too much volume, fucking so much volume. It's retarded. Like way too much volume. That's just the one thing. None of the other things matter. Too much volume, always. All those are the bad programs, and they're out there like crazy. So, um, yeah, lots of wannabes.
The when you get to that point and you overtrain, and it's not that hard, you limit your body's ability to recover, and then you won't get any gains. You actually stand the risk of being worse off than you were when you started to overtrain. So if you would have done nothing, you'd probably be better off than killing yourself in some of these things.
And you
Um,
reduce how well you can perform. If you really value your selection prep and you value training, you think training is like, I have to get in better shape. It's the most important thing for me to get ready for selection. Then you should be trying to perform your best at every workout you have, not going in smoked, not training on sore muscles, not showing up on a day when you feel beat down, you didn't sleep good, and you had a hard training session yesterday too. Like you're not performing as good. Like that's how you can that's how the concept of recovery, you kind of, I also call that readiness, right? It's kind of like they're the same thing, like two sides of one coin. Like how well you're recovering is going to dictate your readiness to train. Like you should want to maintain a high level of readiness if your goal is to improve your fitness. Like you need to have the space to not just recover but be ready for your next session so you can perform well and put out hard. That's an important part of making progress. You got to go hard, and not just hard, but like your body systems need to execute well. Muscling through a run at absolute max heart rate is not going to make you as fast as a well thought out session where your heart rate is maybe in a better place and you've actually paced yourself, because running includes the skill of pacing yourself and breathing, right? You managed your intensity for that run and then finished hard at the end. Like that's how you're always going to get your fastest run. So you could squander a fucking training session in a week just by going out and having a run that's super hard. Like the fuck is that going to do for you? Not as much from a creating a stimulus for you to recover from, because you went in under recovered. And that's obviously just how a cycle continues, right? You know, you show up for training sessions not ready, you perform less good, get hurt more, get sore faster, and it all just compounds, you know? So,
So that's from the physical growth side, right? And we're training to get ready over a long period of time. That's what we want to do. You want to, because there's really no, for physical wise, there's no benefit to training fatigued, because you're not doing any good. You haven't recovered. But let's flip it and go from the mental side, where there is a benefit to training fatigued at some of these courses. How do you differentiate between the two? Because you know as well as I do, fucking selection is way more mental than it is physical. So you need to get that physical to a point, and then you need to be switched on mentally, because your body's fucking tough. It will go. It's your mind that's going to give up.
mhm. Yeah, so that's a good question, man, because it's a big part of what we're kind of talking about now and what I try to get across to people. So you train to improve your fitness. During that phase, it's a long phase, right? Maybe 6 months, maybe 18 months, you know, long period of time. You can at intervals introduce gut check workouts. And those are, you know, smoke sessions. Those are harder workouts. They're designed to really push you mentally. Not they're not about a physical gain or a stimulus for growth. They're a chance for you to go hard and you know, sell your soul and experience some of the pain so you can get familiar with that. You're not doing those regularly, you're not doing them weekly, or don't even need to do them monthly. Um, and on a similar so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is those final 10, 12, 15 weeks before SFAS. Because now when you're approaching that event, we're not training for fitness gains, right? Because it's too short of a time frame. And you need to get even more specific for the what you just touched on. The shit that is so hard, it requires mental strength, not physical strength. You know, like so now we shift our training to that. Your workouts become more challenging in that regard. More pain, more time under tension, you know, less complex exercises and lifts in the gym, longer, you know, higher heart rate work, things that are destroying your grip, things that are, you know, making you ruck in a way that doesn't just, you know, destroy your lower legs, but feels fucking awful, right? Exposing you to some of that. So you touch on and you recreate those pain points in those final 12 weeks as you're peaking for selection. Um, and you're increasing that steadily like you would progressively overload anything else. You don't start 12 weeks out and fucking go sell your soul and then you strain something and you're fucking 10 weeks out from selection, right? So you still progress it in intensity, but it's the focus has now shifted from patterns that are going to build muscle and durability and strength over time and training the cardiovascular system to training more for muscular endurance, for the metabolic burn when you're holding on and you've been holding on for minutes now, right? Or you're going to the next exercise and your forearms are just fucking locked up. Like these are now we're trying to recreate some of that environment of SFAS in your program by shifting exercise selection and kind of how we approach your workouts, right? And peaking running and rucking, right? So more time on your feet, more time with the pack on your back, less time, you know, barbell deadlifting, because what the fuck, you're not going to do that. So you're still picking things up, but you ramp that up in training, um, so that they can brush up on, you know, getting hard, you know, tapping into it mentally, carry momentum into it. Um, taper before you show up, so you show up fresh and go fucking put out, right? There's definitely things that people can do, right? Whether it's the gut check workouts here or there, or time trials are good, right? So if you're comfortable putting in miles, then time trials for your 2 mile, 1 mile, 5 mile, whatever, like, you know, go send it. You know, those are gut checks too. Those can be experiencing pain and making yourself drive through mentally. Um, got some options. There's the guard puts on the SFREs, these readiness evaluations that anybody can go to, civilian, military, whatever, prior service. You can go to these And if you show up, they're mini selections, so you will get the experience of some of that pain and discomfort, right? And some of those positions too. And those are an amazing tool for somebody who is prepping for selection. You
Yeah,
also
my
might get
buddy
a
invited
contract
me
around
in.
it if you don't have one. So
My buddy invited me to one of the SFREs out here in Fort McCoy here in June. I was like, yeah, I'll come out. You want me to wear my uniform and pretend to be still in, or what do you want me to do? And I was like, hey, can I borrow your social security number so I can, get back in the military? Uh, that guard does it a weird way. But so I know what I had when I went through selection, which was 2 weeks in hell. That's it. That's all the baseline. And you
same,
kind of
bro.
joined,
That's it.
huh? That's
Same.
it. You kind of joined at the same time. So that's all there
Didn't
was.
know
There was
anything else.
nothing. No, because social media wasn't what it was now or
Yeah.
what it is now 13, 14 years ago. Um, and that's hard to understand because we've been there while it's changed, but it wasn't the same. There was no looking up programs or how to do things or what the events were going to be. You're just sitting there watching uh, National Geographic or Discovery Channel when it would come on the television. You couldn't look at or YouTube, and you're trying to figure out what you needed to get ready for. But it was just rucking, and then okay, well, I guess I got to go figure it out while I'm there. What Because you enlisted as an X-ray, what was the decision that led you to join the Army and pick that job?
Yeah. So I graduated high school and went to university that I had no business going to because I just partied with my friends and flunked out after 2 semesters. So I came back home uh, and was working, bartending, waiting tables to, keep an apartment because it's like I'm not moving in with my parents. I'm 18, like so. Spent about a year doing that, just working my butt off to, barely afford keeping my own, place of residence. Right. And I was like, all right, something's got to give. I'm not a slouch. I grew up racing motocross, grew up playing football. Um, so I'm like, I have this potential. I need something to pull it out of me. My best friend in high school comes from a military family. His parents are both Army officers. His older brother graduated from West Point. Um, he was enlisting, and he told me about the SF contract in the Army. I was originally going to go Air Force Special Operations because that's the only one I had known about through knowing somebody that had gone a few years prior. Um, but I just knew that special operations was harder than the rest of the stuff, right? So if I was going to go in, I was going to try to do the hardest thing because I wanted to do something, right? I wanted to make sure that what I did brought the most, tapped into the potential I have and brought that out the most. That was my goal. It's what I joined for. Didn't join because I wanted to be a hero and serve my country or because I have some family lineage of soldiery. Like I went because I needed help. I needed to get my fucking life on a trajectory that wasn't gonna be a bore. I was only 19, but I was like, we gotta get things moving. So uh, it scored good enough on my ASVAB to get the X-ray contract. So that was it, man. Got a ship date. That was like right before my best buddy. He didn't have the brains for the ASVAB, so he signed up as an 11 Charlie, and we shipped out. Yeah, man, one of the best
What?
decisions ever made.
When did you go to basic?
12. So it ended
When
up
in 20?
being basically 3 years after I graduated high school.
When in 2012? Summer?
April.
April? Okay, so year after me. What selection class were you in then?
Oh man, the number I don't recall exactly. I donned my Green Beret in September of 2014.
I was October of 2014. So you were the
Yeah, man.
286. I was 287.
If you were any cuter, I might remember your face, but you're ugly. So
Bro, I was at points, quite a few points during the class. I was class leader and shit, and I don't fucking remember anybody. Like, names are all gone. Uh, that's it. Unless you were standing right next to me, I
it's
don't.
crazy,
I don't.
man. I'm the same way, and I hate to take it this route, but I'll see, when one of our brothers, goes down, like there's been guys, right? You see him, and I'm like, man, I fucking remember that face from the queue,
Yeah,
and it's like, like literally, your class or class next door, right? Like, and yeah, man, 2014, the last hard year.
I was the first easy class. I tell people I did not have it as hard as everybody else that was in
Yeah,
formation standing next to me. That's for sure, guaranteed. Because
yeah.
there were people just right there that had a much shittier time than I did. So, but you're right. Yeah, there's some when guys have passed away, I'll see the face and I'll go, I remember that dude. Always had a huge dip in. Oh, that guy. I remember him walking around. Yep, for sure. But if I ran into the guys, I'd be like, yeah, I remember your face, but I have no idea what your name is. But we're talking about we had a recall formation, like 1,500, 2,000 people out there next to battalion or whatever it was. But so we enlisted, getting our shit together, off to basic training. Was that what you thought it was going to be, or were you disappointed like I was?
Um, I wasn't disappointed because I don't mind something being easier, right? Like, I it was yeah, man. I had fun. And I tried to make it fun for the guys around me. I was in an X-ray platoon, so we had two platoons in our company. We're all X-rays, and it was cool, man. It was a cool experience. What sticks out to me is the variety of people, because it's like the first stages of people who got X-ray contracts. So there's some guys you look at and you're like, "There's no way you're going to make it," and you're absolutely right. Like, right, like, um, didn't even make it, barely made it through basic. Um, but yeah, it was fun, man. I tried to make it fun for my buddies. Um, Not take things too seriously. There was plenty of guys making everything serious, right? And like former cadets or whatever, right? So you have guys who literally were already played army, and the rest of us are there doing it for the first time, right? So I definitely was the comedic relief and trying to, you know, probably slouch my way through some of it too, which isn't the best, but
You got to do that at times. And that'll come up later, when you're getting the shit smoked out of you, and the cadre's not looking. Well, I gotta take this easy so I can reserve some energy for later. Otherwise, I'm gonna fucking die.
yeah, man.
I was disappointed in basic training. I got there, but that's really where everything, like, I wasn't, uh, I was just a construction worker kid, bartender, and then I got to basic, and it's a different person. I was okay. This is it. This is my life, and we're 1,000% all in. And I mean, I got it to the point. I walked up to my drill sergeant. I was like, "Drill sergeant, is this it?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's pretty disappointing, isn't it?" I said, "What happened?" He's like, some of the drill sergeants got in trouble for abusing uh, trainees a few cycles ago, so we're being watched." I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, abused. Was like, oh fuck. Okay, that makes sense. So they didn't do anything to us because other people had been shitheads. So I was like, oh fuck, this is dumb.
Man, so like I knew that there was a shift at some point, between when I went through and at least very recently when I've now been working with guys that are going through. So in the last couple of years, hearing their experience, and my brother enlisted. Not he didn't go to Sand Hill because he's a different MOS, but enlisted probably 3 years ago, and so heard what it was like for him too. And I mean, I'm not surprised that it made that shift, but I suppose I can proudly say that it endured some pretty brutal smoke sessions and poor treatment from my drill sergeants for
Two,
a
I've
month.
two smoke sessions while in the military. That's it, and both of them were at selection.
Wow.
That, and they don't even do log and rifle PT anymore. I've been told.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that true?
Um, they've moved it and are doing using different implements for that, for that part.
Brings a tear to my eye. That's sad. Yeah. So we ship you off to airborne school again. I thought it was going to be harder, but they do a good job of making you want to get out of that airplane. What were your thoughts on airborne school?
I was nervous, man. I'm not big on flying. I'm a big pussy, but But overall, it was really cool. It was cool to just because it's story time. My brother was working at a supplement store um, when I graduated, and so he brought me a big order. Right, so you got that like in the Q course we call it the Camp McCall savings account, but when you're a basic, you have that too because you're racking up pay for a couple months. So he had bought me a bunch of pro hormones, a bunch of supplements from, just like 8 different bottles of pills. And you're not supposed to have any of that at airborne school. And so I like, smuggled it into my locker, and was stoked to just be able to hit the gym and take my supplements and try to reverse the skinny fat that happened at basic training a little bit. So I had fun. I had made a couple really good friends, and me and my buddy would just we'd go to airborne all day, go lift at the gym at night. Felt good to do that again. Um, it was a little repetitive, all the running around, but it was good. I got it kept me in good running shape, that's for sure. And Yeah, nervous jumping. I thought the tower was the scariest thing, right? Like being on an airplane is one thing, but just being dragged above the ground and watching it go away from you slowly is like, oh, okay. Especially with your first time, right? You haven't used a chute before, so tower is a trip.
Yeah, that one. Now that you bring that up, I forgot about the tower. That was a little. It's just freaky. They're just hoisted up like, oh shit, fuck. I hope this thing works because you look at it, and you're like, this can't be legal.
You can't see anything either below you, right? You're just kind of floating and you're like, then you get dropped. Oh man, it's like a bad carnival ride.
But whatever. And I think as I recall, I don't know if I got a concussion, but I smacked the shit out of my head on the fucking fifth. It was either first or fifth jump. Um, Shows how much I remember, but that probably
That's
could.
how much you've hit your head.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I was on a podcast about head trauma last night, and I'm trying to remember all this shit. And I'm telling my story, and it's like, this is just my version of the story. Other people might have a different version that's actually correct. So
Yeah.
it's like my fishing tail at this point. But oh man, fuck.
First
They,
first landing at airborne was hard for me too. I remember thinking like, damn, I have to do this 4 more times. But I think they got a little bit better. But I was definitely shook the first one. I
I think
never
they gave us a
never
different
had.
shoot the first time. They gave us a T10, and then they were T11s.
I mean, if something like that happened, that would explain it. I was gonna say like, get into the queue and jump in with the different chute from then on out. Like never had another hard landing again. But those 5 at airborne school landed pretty rough.
Yeah, I think the first one was a different shoot, and then they were like T11s, T10s, and then T11s, and then when we get to group, it's MC6. Um, but for everybody listening at home, um, life gets easier once you get to group for jumping out of planes. So now we get into 2012 Special Operations Preparatory Course. Now, most of my guests, a disproportionate amount of my guests, have went to that were 18 X-rays were there between 2003 and 2007, or the brutal years. How was your experience at SOPC in 2012?
Yeah. SOPSI it was awesome, man. It was it was everything I expected. What I remember of it is, running around the sand hills. And honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. My memory is trash anyways, but I was trying to think back to SOPC and realize that, a lot of those memories blur together, right? What was SOPC and what was actually selection. And I think, part of that's my crappy memory, but part of that's also because they were very similar, like you just strap up your boots in the morning and your next thing you know, you're running and rucking around. SOPC had some really, really really tough workouts in the pit that really dragged on. Um, but I was really excited to be there, right? Like basic training, like you said, it was a disappointment. And I mean, it really was. I didn't even take it seriously. And then airborne school stuff starts to get real. But I mean, you arrive at Camp McCall, you're in the woods now. All you've done is just be in, Columbus, Georgia on a big base and then be at Benning at a big base for airborne and then at Bragg, for a minute. You're like, oh, this is just another big base. And then you're in the woods in Camp McCall. And there's nothing but a bunch of your peers and some freaking Green Berets now who you've barely seen at all yet, right? and you're working out with them. So it was like, man, this is cool. This is what we came for. So very hard workouts, lots of people puking all the time, really full days, and then just kind of blurs into, selection. But it was challenging, but it it definitely did its job, like at least at that time. And we know that X-rays have a good selection rate and that they show up, fit for a reason, and it's because of that prep course, or at least historically, it has been like they do good. It's a very productive period of time for being a short period of time. I think it does a good job of bridging the gap, or mine did, of your fitness coming out of basic and airborne and preparing for selection. So definitely probably broke some motherfuckers too, but I don't remember who fell out. We were all just like, you know that just starts happening and you're like, not me.
Let me just fucking keep your head down.
Yep.
How's your perception of special forces changed at this point? Because when you're civilian, you kind of see the contract and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. What are you thinking now at this time? You're getting there, you're starting to learn more about special forces. Is your opinion changing, or are you learning more about what you're actually getting yourself into?
At the SOPC selection stage, man, not really any more informed. So a bit informed, because I'm pretty sure, we did a good amount of classroom time at SOPC as well. And you start to get the picture painted. But I mean, as far as knowing about, what an 18 series is and does and what the mission looks like, I mean, dude, I feel like I didn't learn anything about that until I got to group, relatively speaking, right? Like, you spend this whole time as a candidate and you're learning about unconventional warfare and doctrine and stuff throughout, and you get to Robin Sage and you get to run that Colex, which is unconventional warfare. But let's be honest, it's not the company area in your battalion or the deployments that most of us ended up going on. So the lights really came on when I showed up at group. um, but in the Q course, you slowly start to learn more about it, and honestly at different rates, right? Like there'd be guys that would start, you start tearing through the books and they want to know all the arcane history and the who's who of SF and what happened and stuff. And so you can definitely, it starts to kind of increase there. But as I would say at SOPC and selection, man, it was still more just like surviving the cut playing in my head, right? Like it's just like, I don't know the ins and outs of the job, or what really, as much as, and that's what's crazy now. So this was my experience back then. These guys now that I work with or coach, they have so much information, right? They have too much information. They have too much insight, right? Like I had no G2 back then, zero. A lot of people have, more people have it than don't nowadays. Almost everybody has it because you can just look stuff up and start to get a bunch of information. Uh, but I would say even at SOP team selection, man, I didn't know what I was getting into per se. When I finally get an 18 series designation and go work.
Yeah, I even coming from the regular army, I more of, I would put it, I knew what I was getting out of than I knew what I was getting into. I just knew I had got to my unit. I don't want this, and I left. And I took the easiest path for me to get out of there was to go to selection. These guys seem squared away, great history. I want to do that. And then even going through the course, you have no idea what group's going to be like, or what you're even training for. For me, it was just task, complete task. That was it. On to the next one. Survive and advance. Um, some Jimmy V sort of motivation there, and that's it. That's all it was. Um, yeah, 2 weeks in hell, but 2 weeks in hell doesn't tell you anything about what you're getting yourself into. It's just that it's gonna fucking blow. And then you get to some phases in the course where it fucking sucks.
Yeah. 2 weeks in
And you're
hell
like,
just
yep,
keeps the enigma going, right? It just keeps it enigmatic. Like you don't really know, right? It just like romanticizes it. Um, it's not informative.
they got an Instagram now. Selection has an Instagram. Did you see that?
Yeah, man. I'm glad that I
That's
beat the selection people to social media for selection based content. Means I was early, which is good.
I don't know. Maybe it's gonna draw more people to the life than before with more notoriety and shit. Is that good or bad? There's chance as long as standards don't change. Hopefully, they don't change. Make decisions based on recruiting numbers. Oh, we have to have this many people, but these are the numbers that we're seeing. Hopefully, that's those decisions aren't made. But
So
man,
that's what's driving this, not that I know everything on the subject, but I've watched the heads of selection talk about it as it currently is, and I don't specifically remember them saying this Instagram we started, but they've put out the updated handbook or whatever for prep. So selection, in again, my opinion, I'm not a selection expert, I'm not there, but I know the guys that are going and that want to go, and I think that and we know what rates are. They're not high. They've never been high. Selection rates aside, people are less fit, I think, than they were, and they're able to show up less fit too because of the information, and so I think that the reason one of the reasons why they're starting the social media, one of the reasons why they made that prep handbook and they're pushing it out is they want better quality. They want people to be more prepared when they show up. It's not Think about that. It's not fun for selection cadre to have a bunch of fragile bodies show up and have to drop out, everybody. They can't even get through it, can't even run you know, team events the way they're supposed to because I just wouldn't want to deal with, a bunch of soft bodies that are breaking. It's hard enough to deal with all the hard bodies that are breaking, right? So I think the social media is less about, you know, getting eyes on it. I mean, and that's probably part of it, but I think it's also about informing and touching and reaching to the guys that are going early. So reach them early so that they know what to expect better. So it's kind of like the SFAS cadre are now trying to reach out in time and get those their candidates before they show up at SFAS, because in the past they can only do anything with them when they show up. You just get who you get, right? So they're trying to affect, you know, that population before they get there by informing them more about the standards, and they've only made a few posts on their Instagram, and it's not life changing, but it is an insight and it is a connection point, for people
yeah,
earlier on now.
they got
That's
to start
official, and
somewhere.
it's not the fake gurus that we talked about earlier, the programmers and stuff, right? Like it's the fucking horse's mouth. So I don't think there's any getting away from social media in general, right? So
Yeah, you're right. It's probably okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. They got the psyops officer in there, and they're like, we need to manipulate our our pool of candidates. How should we do this here? Well,
yeah,
we
man.
the way of social media. If you get out in front of it and you can mold the soldiers before they get here, then you can maybe have a better
Yeah, man.
pool, or convince the ones that are on the fence that they should do it and motivate them. So
You
yeah,
know?
that's probably you're right. I just didn't think of that, but I haven't put too much thought on the subject.
No, I know. I was listening to, I just dropped right today the 18 Good Guy episode, and
Oh
I know.
man, what an episode! Before you go, like
Yeah, check it out,
that
man.
dude's smart.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. I was really stoked when I saw it was coming out, and then, but you guys touched on some of this, social media, visibility, personalities representing, regiment, etc. And so there's definitely, there's a lot to that. There's a lot of opinion and stuff in there too. But there's a lot of function, um, and like, you know, it's a tool. So that's, as somebody who uses it as a tool for myself, right? Like, there's definitely social media is it's wild. But I enjoy that there's an SFAS Cam McCall page. I always be on there commenting and supporting the page, listening to the fucking cadre. I like the inside look, man. Posted recently standing out there in front of people's tents, at Land Nav, and I'm just like, I can go back. Like I don't have
You
much of a
can't go
memory, but
back.
if it's
The the
contextual, I
selection
put myself there, standing in
the
the trees,
selection we went to the selection we went to does not exist anymore. It they once they got rid of the tents, because before we were in the tents, then they had those metal skinned buildings. But you know, it's just an opinion. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
That being in those half dome tents that are either too hot or too cold. Now they're in a building. It's a different thing. It's not saying either one's better or worse. It's just that selection that we went to doesn't exist anymore.
It's a lot
Uh,
easier for a cadre to bust you sleeping in your tent when they're just a bunch of tents right there, and it's not like a a barracks building, right? I mean, they just drop in 2 minutes, they can hit every single tent, you know, anybody sleeping, done.
Walk down the line at not. Yeah, that's so. Those are over once they got rid of the tents. But I'm not saying we had it harder or we have it had it easier. I had it easier. That's what I say. But um, yeah, it's too bad. That's that because that was just like that next extra level of shitty uh, that added to the whole process.
Yeah, because they were isolated, you know. Yeah, the buildings are on the main footprint at Camp McCall. So you're right next to the $1 million shitter. You're right next to the chow hall. You're in amongst the other groups and classes coming through. But when it's tents up there by the whiteboard, I mean, we were just surrounded by your own trees. There's just your tents and, you know, the whiteboard is a little more secluded. It's only like what, 200 meters away, but it was on an island when you're in the tents over there. You're not going anywhere else.
No, no, nowhere to go. Can't go anywhere else. But what? Any phases of selection that you thinking? Oh fuck! I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this.
Man, I had kind of like an unwavering, maybe ignorant confidence. You know, like I guess I and this is just personal, like I've never really thought about, or don't spend any time dwelling on the stuff like going wrong. And outside of selection in the military, like I have been through some shitty sewers of life and aspects of it. Um, there's there, so to answer immediately, no, I was supremely confident. I'm a fucking have God level confidence. No. Dude, I rolled the shit out of my ankle running to the classroom on like day 2 or 3 in boots, which I'm prone to doing. So I rolled the fuck out of it. Swollen purple, see the medic, get my Motrin, but it hurt like shit, like rolling your ankles does. And it's just pure pain. And so I'm like, it's day 3 of selection. And I just shot myself in the fucking foot. So I definitely had a oh shit moment. But I mean, a fucking sprained ankle, it's going to take more than that to stop somebody who wants it. It just hurt like shit. I was still able to run and ruck, made sure not roll it again, made sure not to step in a fucking hole. I'd land nav. Every single step I took was, God, so diligent. Um, so but that moment, man, just rolling it on an extra large piece of gravel while running from the tents to a classroom very early on. And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. So I hobble up to formation and I'm like, well, I guess we're going to see what you're made of now, stupid. So, but it was fine. I think there's enough pain globally that after, a day or two, like it hurt, but
Yeah,
shoulders probably hurt more than anything.
yeah. You get introduced to new and exciting pains as you go
Living under
through
a
that.
rock, man.
I remember sitting at that table, and they called you in on the last day, and sitting there, and the cadre starts reading the thing, and he hands me a sheet. He's like, "Congratulations, you've been selected. Get the fuck out of here." What were you thinking at that point?
Man, surreal. Like that period of the end, the final hours, like that's a blur to me. That's an absolute blur. Um, no, man, I thought I'd made it, honestly, right? So at that point in time, we go back to like the perspective and the mindset of then. Then I'm like, fucking did it, right? Like this is it. I did it. Like let's go. This was what it's all about, right? So there's more to come. But also, I mean, bro, that's the moment. That's what you came for. So was very, very hype. Was also very curious about, who wasn't going to get it. And I think it's a tense time as an X-ray and as a young guy at the end, because as an X-ray and a young guy, peers, not that they're weighted differently than other guys, but that, the peers of a non-prior service, and this kind of other parts of the course too, not just selection, like with your peer evaluations that are going on and working around the guys, whether it's team week or out at SUT, um, having those guys, speak highly of you and not talk down about you, because I don't, I got selected. I don't know, but I know that even at times people didn't had things they didn't like about me. I had my own, you know, not a squabble, but with an E6 on my, platoon and SUT who was, trying to basically coach me up and stuff. Told me he thought I was young and arrogant and shit like that, right? And I did not peer well. So there's that, you know, you the personality side of the thing is like that knife in the dark that you don't know about, man. Like you might be fit, you might be strong, but you could be sitting there at the end of selection and then you feel a knife in your gut because you fucking peered wrong and you might not have known that that was even going to happen, right? So big sigh of relief mixed with going outside and just like the yes, right? It's like you can't yell because you can't look like a fool, but you just erupt with joy. That's what getting selected is about.
Yeah, I did the old silent fist bump right out the door, and then the guy next to me, he didn't get selected. I was like, oh, sorry, and I kind of just turned around and went that way. But I was like, oh, sorry, bro. Um, but now you ship you off to the Q course, and you got to, it's basically because you're just starting selection over again. They put you into IUW, Introduction to Unconventional Warfare, so you just do the events again and land
Yep.
nav again
Yep.
at the NTA, and that's the STAR exam. The second time is much harder. I thought,
At the NTA.
yeah,
Yeah, man. I mean, that's like it's kind of funny. Like you get through selection and then you don't know there's a little pitfall waiting to catch you and have you fail and get dropped or fail something immediately because NTA eats people up just like LANAV kind of always does. So you get free and clear selection and then man, it wasn't me, but imagine going out in your first LANAV exercises and just go terrible. It's like what happened, man? You just ran the STAR course at selection.
it's one thing for you guys, but there was, you go back to your home unit, and then you fully move to Fort Bragg from wherever you were in the country. Where did I come from? Oklahoma to Fort Bragg, and then a week into you being there, you've got. I think I had CLT first, but I had to go to the
Mm-hmm.
leaders course. But you get into IUW there. All right, we're going out to the NTA. Oh, wait, we're not going out to Hoffman. Okay, and then they start reading you those conditions and standards. Oh, I know we got to do that. Oh, we get same amount of time, more points. Okay, well,
And
let's
this
get
is
it.
when this is what we're talking about when people say you're always getting assessed. Like you get selected, bro, you are not out of the woods. People are dropping like flies from the moment you enter the next phase. Every phase you go through, you lose people. And there's a lot of phases in the Q course, right? So,
Yeah,
any of the aspiring candidates or, guys listening, like, man, you got to always get better and you got to always get switched on. Like my head was not right. It was too young and too dumb, having too many drinks at Cadillac Ranch. Like, I'm lucky I got through. I watched guys get dropped for alcohol related incidences. I watched guys get dropped for all kinds of shit physical, not physical, performance, not performance, right? Like, it's not like they're just like looking to just axe people's hopes and dreams, but you're always getting assessed and it's tough. It's a tough environment, especially for new guys. And it's a weird environment too. I wasn't prior service, but now having spent time at a unit now looking back, like coming from a regular conventional army unit or like a working unit and going to the Q course, that's a very different environment too. It's like a TDY, but like permanent, but also in you're not doing work, you're a student, you don't ever shoot, you don't ever, yeah.
it was weird, but I was still new in the army to where I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, we'll just get after it. I'm a specialist at this point, but I've only been in. Let's see, when I got to the Q course, I was in like 2 years at this point when I finally got there, and you just okay, yeah, whatever, let's do it. But I don't know for sure, but I think after we did the STAR exam in IUW, things changed because there had to be 250 people out there for that, and I think 70 passed total.
Oh,
50 passed the first day, and then around 20 the second day, um, because they got shit on. Talk about fucking all in on the first day. Those 50 dudes, as we're leaving on the bus, this black cloud hurricane rolls in and just shits on them from the time we left until index the next day, and like 20 guys and out of almost 200 people pass. That's it. So I heard that they had changed some things on how they were going to do it the next time around, but hopefully they didn't. So fuck them. But that's a lot. That's a horrible attrition rate.
And so I don't remember numbers, but what I do remember of that phase is the fear in the air. Like, you know what the class before you did, like, right? So now you're at the queue, you start hearing about from the guys in formation next to you, the guys that know people, how awful that land nav piece went for guys and how many guys it got. And so that's what I remember is going in basically shaking in my boots, but like fuck, is this going to be, the part where I failed? Because I haven't failed yet. Confident with land nav and went out and rocked it. But I mean, yeah, dude, I don't remember how many we lost, but I know that there was the fear was thick in the air at that time regarding that phase of training.
And that was like summer of 2013, I think, for me. And there was this rumor that the class behind us, that's why our class was so big, that the class behind us, so many people had failed, or two classes back, that guys went out there on their free time with chainsaws and shit and
Yeah,
cut paths through the
yeah,
draws. And you could see them in the dark because they lit up bright white in the dark. And you're like,
yeah.
oh, I guess
People
there were
were
people.
guys were trying to cheat their way through it because they were. I mean, this is they call the barracks of out of training suicide hall, right? Like dreams are being crushed. I would never take a chainsaw out in the woods and go try to get one over on
I was
cadre
too busy
on the
fucking getting
weekend.
hammered like
Yeah,
at home. I'm like,
but there
fuck
are
that.
guys taking hand saws and going out and I imagine these are probably guys that already like failed once and like,
Yeah.
like they're like the only people that would be desperate enough to go out and do that. But yeah, I remember hearing about that, man, chopping up the course. I don't remember if our training got delayed or if I just remember getting dog shit smoked out of us for it because it happened, right? It's like they didn't matter who did it. I'm pretty sure everybody in the training battalion felt it, when that stuff was going on.
Do you remember the bus? Like people, the rumor going around, if you go to the bus and you shoot an azimuth that goes right through the big draw.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm going to use that one. I'm not going to use the rest of the shit people said, but I'm going to use that one because I was like, I'm not plotting around that motherfucker.
Bold move, dude. I'm pretty sure I've plotted around every single draw I've ever seen coming.
Oh, oh, I did too, but it was I was hearing it for everybody, and
Yeah,
during the training ones, and I was like, it's got to. So I went and shot it. I was like, I'm going to use that one. And fuck it,
right.
I mean, I didn't come out here and cut up the woods. I don't, fucking whatever. And
Yeah,
the as you say, the G2 was good in that
yeah.
case. So fuck them.
Hey,
I still had a miserable time. I mean, even though people had gone and done that, I finished with like fucking 15 minutes left, went 5 for 5, and I was done, dead, ready to fucking die when I rolled in there. But I got it, and I got
yeah.
to go home.
I remember running. I remember running just because it's like you want to be on that first ride out of there, dude. And it's like, yeah, moving with a purpose, coming back. You're taking me back, man. It's good. A little run down memory lanes. It's coming back to me. I can see it.
Freaking out, just absolutely freaking out because I got to my fourth or whatever, fifth point was back at the talk, right, or fourth was out there, and the shithead's in a camouflaged tent, and the sun's come up, and at night the pit points are really easy to see with a chem light on there.
Mm-hmm.
But this dipshit's in a fucking camouflage tent, and the only reason I found him is because I heard the motherfucker move. I go,
Mm.
oh, there he is. That son of a bitch. I could have beat the shit out of him with my rubber duck.
Yeah, man. I remember multiple people in my class getting dropped for taking a GPS out there like they weren't going to do a layout or something.
Oh, fucking
One
gone.
guy
And
claimed it was on accident, and I'm like, bro, I kind of believe you, and that's just makes this even more sad. Stupid.
yeah, off to the 82nd.
Yeah.
Bye. Yeah.
What you get for owning a Garmin at that point. I didn't even have a Garmin watch at that point. I
No,
wasn't a tactical guy.
my only deviations ever from the packing list were I would bring pink towels with me to all the courses because you went to the showers, and if you were the last one in the shower, somehow there were no towels left. But if you brought a pink towel, that one was always fucking hanging there. Nobody was stealing that motherfucker.
Yeah, man.
So
It's
I
a
was
good
always
idea.
people are like, "Oh, that's stupid," and I explain it to them. They go, "Oh, that's pretty smart." Well, I'm going to use that one. I was like, you better fucking not.
Yeah.
Why'd you want to be an 18 Charlie?
My dad has always kind of run the service departments of car dealerships. Cars are like my brother's obsessed with them. My grandpa is. They all own Corvettes and crap. Waste all their money on vehicles and trade them in and out and stuff. And my dad also built a lot of houses over the years, built some of our family homes and other stuff. So the kind of working with the hands and stuff, I saw my dad utilize really practically in our life, and I was like, again, I was looking at SF and the Army as a way to pull out potential and honestly create a better future for myself. As selfish as that sounds, and so the engineering, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'll learn some stuff that I need to learn, and it ended up being true. The Charlie course was like man camp. You learn about electrical stuff, you learn about construction stuff, you learn about a lot of practical handyman stuff, right? So you can be an 18 Charlie if you're listening, and then get out and go start a handyman business. Go wear blue jeans and be a plumber. Sounds great, right?
No, no, it's not. Don't listen to what he just said. It fucking blows.
Uh,
I've done everything in the trades that you can do, and it fucking sucks. I should have
my
been a
wife,
fucking 18 Echo.
my wife asked me to do stuff around the house, and I'm like, she's like, you've done this before. I'm like, yeah, fine.
Yeah, my house is full of unfinished projects. That's all I did before I joined was construction from 12 years old up until I left. And then, oh, that's why I say the easy route. The only thing I learned in the Charlie course was leadership, which is invaluable. But,
Yeah,
uh, I was teaching the cadres like, oh, because Nick's got this, and then they just fucked off.
yeah.
But it was fun teaching people. It's a bullet on my resume now that I was, instructed however many students and shit like that. But that's what it was. Um, and just running around and teach people, nope, don't do it like this. You got to do it like that, and things like that. Um, and then the cadre, like nobody fucked with me in the Charlie course after that point. Really, like it was just, I felt like I had my go. I didn't act like it, but I felt like I was there. So, but yeah, in hindsight, maybe I should have been an Echo or
What
something.
the part of the Charlie course that I really remember and stands out to me a lot was UXO. So I remember that was another one that was seemed to have like the testing for it had like a pretty good no go rate on it. That
Um,
people would be nervous about that. So I remember
not
being
in
nervous
my
about it.
not in
That
my class. Yeah.
might go first time, but and you know what else I remember? I remember the fucking civilian that
The one
worked.
with his face blown off.
That was it, wasn't it? Yeah, man, you
Yeah.
remember him too, huh?
Yeah.
I can still see that hideous face right now, dude. Haven't thought
Remember
about
the
this man in a
rumors?
long time.
Remember the rumors about what had happened to him, and the
Bro, I don't even
students just had
remember. Yeah, it's just like a legend, right?
students were like, "Oh, he was getting a hooker down in the Murchison, and he got in a fight with the pimp or something like that, and they shot him in the face." I was like, "Who's making up these stories?" Right? Like, what the fuck?
There's probably a grain of truth to it.
I but my I was hooked when we did our spendex, and the cadre's like, "Okay, they got the dozer out there, and they dug three big holes, and we made these enormous piles. It was way over the weight requirements, right, of what we were supposed to be in each one. And we were lined up. I think I was first. It doesn't matter, but you hit that RDX, and that went off, and the cadre went, I'm going to hear about that one. And then we still had two more, and they were they had to be like 500 pounds. I mean, fucking rocked. And people were telling us, what was that you got? What was that on? And they were on base telling us that they heard that shit. And it's like, oh, fuck. And
Man, the that's the best part about it. I loved the explosive side of it, right? Of course it's fun. I liked, at later on in my career I got to go to an HME course, by another government organization and get more time on that side of things, which was really cool and you know, getting the chance to touch stuff downrange, super cool. I think Charlie's a great job. I loved it.
I would have loved to have had the opportunity to do all of that cool stuff. but that's all after the fact, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
My career didn't go that way, so I'm glad you got to do some of the cool shit and do there. Did you feel like you made the right choice with Charlie?
definitely. Yeah, man. It was like exactly what I thought. And then hearing about what some of the other MOSs were like from other guys, like there's no way I wanted to be an Echo or a Delta. So the only other option as the knuckle dragger that I am was, would be Bravo. And then honestly, my buddies there, I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of guns. Also
Yeah,
challenging. So no, would have been good for me to be a Bravo because I had very little firearms experience in my life up until my time in the military. And as an X-ray, that doesn't even start until you get to group, right? Like you're not shooting, there's nothing about marksmanship or guns. So very green in that regard. So the Bravo course would have been good in rounding out, one of my weaknesses before I showed up to a team. But being a Charlie is absolutely the right pick. I love it, man.
you're right about hearing about the other MOSs getting the fucking shit smoked out of them all the time. Um, just I was like, oh fuck, we never got fucked with
Yeah.
ever. Like the whole
Maybe.
time. The worst that happened to us was they made us build the house in the rain
Yeah.
the one time, but we had rain, like it was just raining. That was the worst thing that happened to us.
That shows that Charlie's the best MOS because our cadre were the coolest cucumbers, man. They were like, nah, bro, these are baby Charlies, bro. You know, just got to teach them the skills and send them on their way. There's enough cadre that were dicks in other areas,
Um,
more than made up for it.
Everybody else, like I said, I just didn't happen. I didn't happen in my path, so whatever. I was good with it.
Well, the
But
cadre were dicks to me when I fucked up. I should say, I don't remember them being dicks for no reason, but I definitely remember them being dicks to me. But it was warranted.
we got caught in the Charlie course. Now that we got caught running the roads, I wasn't in charge, and I was just like, okay, fuck, I'm going along with the team here. They made a decision to save some time to try and get there faster. And sure enough, Biff was standing there at the intersection. He's like, come on, guys. He's like, all right. He gives us like some 155 rounds and a couple dummies, and we had to walk them for a mile. And then he's standing there at the next intersection. He's like, all right, put him in the back of the truck. I hope you guys learned your lesson. And then he just fucking drives off into the woods. Like, was that it?
Yeah.
Are we okay now? And then
Yeah.
we fucking ran down the road because he's gone.
Yeah. You're
Because
like,
we
all right, back to the plan, more road.
well, we're watching him drive away, and then everyone's like, you think there's another one out here? I think it's a trap. And we just ran down the road and then ducked off in the woods. We're like, we're almost to where we were going to go anyway. I was like, this isn't my plan. Fuck you. Fuck whatever, guys.
My Charlie FTX was under like a record amount of snow at the beginning of that year. So we stepped off for like our first op in the FTX, and it was a fucking winter wonderland. It was majestic, dude. Like a foot of snow, everything's dusted and white, and I'm patrolling through this with the guys, about to go do our Charlie stuff. So that's another memory that I have that is vivid. I was just like, this is fucking cool. Look at this, like just snow covered going on. Again, an X-ray. So like this is an op, right? This is your mission. You haven't lived, you're still just playing army, so you get those opportunities, and you switch on, and then like this is fucking cool, walking through damn fucking foot of snow, so cold. I remember, I don't know whose idea this was. Cadre were driving us back towards the end of the exercise, and we stopped by the lake out there. um it's early on in kind of the selection area, right? The road runs right by it. He pulls over and he's like, who's jumping in? And then fucking we all jumped in. Just like broke through the ice, freezing lake, did a little celebratory that's, I guess, what it was. Celebratory fucking ice bath. Jumped back in, drove back up,
But you're
finished up.
still not even, you still haven't even arrived at this point. Like you just have passed the Charlie course. Like you got Robin Sage and language to do still at this point. So you're celebrating, but you're still not there.
Yeah, man.
It's a crazy thing to think about.
It's a wild ride. The Q course is a cool thing, man. It's a pretty special place to be, where that pipeline, where you're constantly have an objective in front of you, kind of like you started out with earlier, uh, knocking out one thing at a time. So you get you get the dopamine hits that come with that too. You know, you put in the work, you go test yourself, you get your go. It's like, fuck yes, you go on to the next one. And it's a good environment. You know, I think the guys that come out on the other side are, you know, better for that, for the journey. Right. So it's not only are you learning the skills, the assessment process continues, right? So the numbers continue to basically dwindle, but you're also gaining confidence, you know, growing as a little fucking baby warrior. And then you show up to a team and you just like start from zero again, and you know nothing, and you're a fucking plebe, and you're, you know, feel like an idiot new guy in the room again, like, and you after have just put through years of work and accomplished all your dreams and goals, and you show up and you're like, your fucking heart's pounding out of your chest and staring at your new team sergeant. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, it it's a constant up and down. But let's go back to like recovery and nutrition and like prep during the course, right? So at this point, you know, we're going into Robin Sage. The dudes that I went through the course with, and they're the same dudes that you went through because we're one class apart at this point, which is only a few weeks, 4 weeks. We're 4 weeks apart. When the guys in the barracks or the single guys or whatever, when we were out of training, they were getting fucked up every single night, going and partying. Like they'd come into form. I'm like, how are you guys partying all the time? They're like, I don't know, man. I just have a Four Loco and then I wake up back here at formation. Like, Roby, come on, man. Like every, did you see that too from yours?
Yeah, man. And that's kind of, you know, I alluded to it earlier, you know, drinks at Cadillac Ranch, like there's a lot of that. I mean, there's nothing else to do. And so guys, you know, either drinking in the barracks or going out on the town, and man, you know, from a recovery standpoint, definitely mean, you know, is leaving you more susceptible to injury or something silly, derailing you for sure, or reducing your capacity to go out to the next phase of training. And but also high risk behavior when you only need one incident to get axed and then fucking kick you out because you did something stupid. You know, you get retests, you know, academically throughout the Q course, but if you step on your crank, you don't get another shot. You know, they'll just send you packing. But a lot of that behavior and stuff in the queue for sure.
And it's amazing. Like we still all graduated. We still graduated, got the brand, got the tab. So you can look back and go, it didn't matter. But you know, guys, we're doing that. Like you're only this far away from, you know, a completely different life at all times,
Mhm.
just from going and having fun. But still, it's still you can say, ah, well, I did it. I graduated. I did it, and all that other thing. And it wouldn't have changed much. And it might have affected the outcome differently if you would have done things differently. Because I think there's some. I have thought about it more. I think there's like benefit to it because when we're off. Like it brought that stress level down to zero. So I think that, you know, what looks like on the surface destructive behavior totally took you out of the Q course. You're like, you're not worried about the next phase or being dropped or anything like that. You're out just having fun and not worried about anything. And then when it's time to switch on, guys would show up, switch on, crush that portion of the course, and then back to fucking off again with no thought of it. So I'm like torn on, is it beneficial? And it goes back to that mental thing, right? If you're able to fully reset mentally, but you're destroying your body over here, well, your mental thing can easily overcome that. We've seen that in phase after phase after phase in selection. So maybe there's just a better way to do it to be
Yeah.
healthier along the way so you can still reset mentally and not completely destroy your body. But I don't know. Have you ever thought about it that way?
Yeah, man, there's definitely like, you know, that's what we were doing, right? You're bleeding off the pressure of trying out for the world's hardest job chronically, day and week and month after month now, you know, you're constantly being assessed. There's a lot of mental load that comes from being in that pipeline, you know. You know, you can be you can have all the confidence in the world, but it's a long process. And, you know, if you're spending every night laying in the barracks by yourself, you know, thinking about it or stressing yourself out about it, and you don't have, you know, the social side of things isn't very good change of environment slash, pressure reliever, right? Bleed off some of that pressure. So there's absolutely benefits to that component of it too. Could it be done with a less destructive, or at least like done but with more managed alcohol intake? For sure, that would be more optimal. But there's definitely something to be said for, it's not war, right? But in the queue, you're going to war, you go to the field, right? You got your ship date for Camp McCall. It's fucking 6 weeks away. Just a hero waiting to ship out, and so you're balancing that, time at home basically, and that's time when you go back out into the woods, and keeping yourself, at least from being chronically stressed or worn down with the task at hand.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll eat away at you. Some of those phases I can't imagine. Like some of the deltas going through just get, and you pass a phase in the delta course, and then there's an equally, if not tougher phase coming the next day, and
For
just
sure.
constant. Those dudes seem to let off the most steam when they were let free. They're like, and they seem to have a different attitude because they'd already done 9 months of the Q course before we even started. And they're
Hmm.
like, well, c'est la vie, fuck it, let's go. I thought their attitude was cool. The guys that have already done that. But so, do you know what group you're going to at this point?
Yeah, yeah, man. So I went to fifth group. I don't even remember when we get orders, but I know based on language, like where I'm going. I don't even remember when they cut our orders as far as being in the queue. But yeah, I went to Fort Campbell, fifth group.
Was that your choice, Pashto, or what
No,
language did you get?
Arabic.
Arabic.
So I tried to choose languages that would send me to like 10th group or first group because I wanted to go somewhere cool like Colorado or Germany or fucking Washington or something, right? But I scored really well on that, on the language test, is at the D Lab, and so they gave me Arabic. So I went to fifth group, which pretty much knew I was going there when I got the Arabic. So they might have been on the group wasn't on my list. I think I put Arabic 3, and I did like Russian, French, Arabic, and so I ended up getting Arabic from my wish
Okay.
list,
Well,
and I got
Russian
to
and
travel
French aren't
that
really
long.
going to take you to first group, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think we had one Russian speaker that I knew of. But fuck. So what's it like getting your beret finally? Because you're 2 years. I mean, this is a singular focus. There's no regular army time. There's only one goal: is the beret. You're not worrying about anything other than getting that, and to finally get it. What's your feeling like?
man, proud, definitely proud. Proud not just of myself, but like, of the homies and the guys to the left or the right, like proud of the tradition that you're being handed, like Green Beret, it's a symbol, right? So it kind of speaks for you, but it also, you become kind of like a part of it. It's so much bigger than you that, from the moment you have it, you kind of realize that. You learn that through the Q course. You're like, oh shit, like it's real now, So it's humbling for sure, but also really inspiring, very motivating, right? Like I remember being there and be like confident that you can conquer anything, but you also know that you're only just now going into, the fray. So super proud, big sigh of relief for sure. And then it's kind of just like more of the same, like you don't know what the next phase of the queue is going to be like. And at this point, you don't know what group's going to be like. So you're just like, fucking Roger that. Like, check the box. Like, all right, let's go. What's the next stop? What's the next new thing that I have to go figure out?
What's your perception of what it's going to be like at this point? Because as you graduate, that's this is the most you're going to know before you walk on into the company area. And I mean, I feel you have Robin Sage, and that's one thing, and that prefer you learn Robin Sage. I still feel like I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at that point.
Yeah, man. I mean, still definitely didn't know. Definitely didn't have an idea of what it's going to be like. Cause I can remember showing up to group and being like, oh, this is what it's like. Like, this is not what I imagined. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but this is not, necessarily it. And so there's definitely this like, shroud like over your eyes until you really, really get there, cause we've talked about this now. different points in the Q course, like still really not knowing, what you're getting yourself into, or what it's going to be like until you actually show up. So I I still didn't know, man. I was just ready to go.
And you show up. I showed up, and one of the cadres standing there in the training room when I got to Charlie Company, Third Battalion, and one of the selection cadres in there, and he says something, and he's like, "I'm like a mirage. I'm gone." And then he left, and that was it. That was the last time I ever saw him. He's like, he got out of the army right then.
Yeah.
He just came to haunt me from my first selection where I got hurt, the second selection where he was my team week cadre on two of the events, and then I first walk into the company area, he's there, and then he just fucking disappears through the wall like a ghost, and that was it. But it's the same guys, really. They're all the same personalities, but now they're just different. And of course, so you're kind of part of the club now.
Hmm.
You got your tab and your beret, but you're still not accepted. How long did that period, probation period, last
Yeah.
for you?
So I had a more unique experience showing up to group. So I actually reported to the HHC of fifth group, so the absolute flagpole of all the battalions, the headquarters company. Um, and that's for another story for another time why I ended up there out of the
Yeah,
queue. But so this put me in an environment where I worked in ops for the headquarters company. So I essentially worked the office right next to me was the company first sergeant who was a Green Beret and a company commander who was a Green Beret. So former team sergeant, former commander, uh, of an ODA, and I worked directly for these guys in the ops room. So I managed to jump logs and helped with administrative stuff, got ammo and helped them run ranges. But I was one of the few Green Berets. Well, not the few. In this kind of like area, I was one of the few Green Berets, me and the first sergeant and my commander. So they were really helpful. My first sergeant was awesome. Ended up seeing him downrange later, after I'd moved to an ODA. But he was great. So I got to work for an experienced guy, right? Like I didn't have a senior Charlie when I showed up to group. I had a, a team sergeant who was just, my boss, and I had some other enablers around me. So I got to work for him. He coached me up a lot. He kept it real with me. He was not, hard on me in any way, honestly. Like he was, strict, but I mean, I was a young. He took it as a great chance to kind of mentor me, send me to some schools. I got some schools that I wouldn't have got as a new guy. I went to sniper school, which was awesome. So I was there for about a year, getting range time too, learning from another Charlie who was conducting ops for their training company. So it's a company full of enablers, basically, right? There's Green Berets sprinkled in there, but it's all your S shops and stuff like that. So we go to the range for these guys to go shoot, and I learn and see what it's like to, as a Green Beret conduct a range, which is basic for a Green Beret. But as a new GB, you're like, oh man, I'm barely, ranges are new to me, period. So I get to learn from this guy what it looks like to run a range, man. And so this experience, there was a big expectation of me, right? People saw me as a Green Beret in that company, these enablers, but they don't know that I'm the cheeriest Green Beret there is, right? So it's almost like not faking it till you make it, but like you're walking around in these big shoes, and every day you're like, oh man, I got to fill these fucking shoes. So that was a cool environment for about a year at Garrison. Honestly, interactions with like group sergeant major and group, like the highest of the high. So it was a good experience for me as an X-ray because it gave me like flagpole, almost regular army experience. I got to encounter normal shops. I got to make connections at group, S2 and group, S1 or whatever, like group level know some people. So, and then when I went to a battalion, a year later and went to a team, I had the personal connections from that time at group. I had sniper school under my belt, which was a big help as far as how I was viewed as a new guy. And I had been, some comfort moving around fifth group. So I wasn't completely, I felt cherry. I felt brand new. When I walked in the team room and you went into battalion, I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. Um, but had some practical experience. So wasn't like the newest, you know, the greenest possible showing up on a team. So I had this like break in period at Group HHC, which was, it was a delay and I wasn't, I wanted to get to a team, but it also ended up being a good and enjoyable experience that, basically coached me up before showing up to a team as a new guy. So
That's good. I've spoken many times on here that personally, this is just me, I feel that there's something lost by X-rays not having being in the regular army for 2 years and having that private experience. Guys have told me, oh, we're going to be Green Berets, not we're not regular army. Okay, yeah, that. Well, when you become like an E8 or senior E7 or E8, it switches over to when you got to mentor people again and having that perspective of a junior listed. So that's good that you got to have some of that experience and kind of see how things work because when you're on a team, that's all that matters. Nothing outside that team room matters. You don't care about the other five teams unless you have to do a range with them or you have to do um, a dual team ops or something like that. So you don't really learn how things work in the company until you go to the B team. And then you see how all six teams are part of this one organism. And then they work with the other companies. And then you go to battalion and you see that everybody's kind of working against one another and you're trying to sort that shit out. And then group doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. And then they're pushing down information and you're going, I don't know what this is. So that's good. You got to have that experience. Do you think it made you, it got you that experience kind of that you were missing from being an X-ray, but do you think it made you a better Green Beret?
Yeah, for sure. And the reason is because, Green Berets, we do get in a bubble, and we can get in a bubble to our detriment working on a team, right? Or having a perspective about ourselves and only seeing that, reflected in our peers and not gaining other perspectives of like other people around us. But, Green Berets don't, we might go out and operate on our own, but there's companies and battalions worth of enablers behind us and around us at all times, basically. So having the experience of knowing how to talk to those people and interact with them, right? Like so much of selection and getting peered well and stuff is like the rapport, right? Your interpersonal skills, being able to interact with people, being able to not be socially awkward, and build relationships and stuff. And so that absolutely made me a better Green Beret because it enhanced that skill, which is one we're all supposed to have and be good at anyways. Diplomacy, right? Like talking to people that were of different ranks. I spent a year talking to other ranks and other MOSs. I didn't go only talk to other GBs, so I had that exposure, uh, which made me a more better my interpersonal skills within the scope of the Army, which I think is important for Green Berets because we do our own thing, but you're gonna request help of of guys and gals of all kinds of MOSs to help facilitate your training and your ops and your equipment and all that shit, right? So
Yeah. We're all selected based on the skills that we possess, right? And if you don't use those skills, you're not going to be any good at them. Yes, we have interpersonal skills to where we can communicate with other soldiers and and create that team environment. But if you don't do that often, and if you don't work with people outside of your other team and put those things to use, then you're not going to be any good at them. Yes, you have the skill, but you might be shitty at it. And you
and
have to,
building rapport and those relationships with your peers that are like you, like-minded individuals, whatever type A's, pipe hitters, want to be fucking Green Berets, like that's different than the little girl that works in S2 and the fucking nerdy guy or whatever that works in the other shop, right? And so you're not always just working with, another one of the boys. Like that's easy. Those are easy rapport. That's easy rapport to build. How do you do it across, gender and job and all kinds of, different that's where the challenge comes in. That's where your eyes get open when you go down range, work with your first partner force, and just like a civilian too. That's why I like to travel. Me and my wife love to travel. That's why traveling is important because you'll go and meet a completely different group of people, and you should come back with like better basically skills, rapport building skills from that experience of interacting with another person who is unlike you. There's a lot to gain from that. So
yeah. I was on the phone with a team sergeant last night, and we were talking about the same thing. Getting off the team, going and learning about the shops. 'Cause these aren't GBs. These are enablers, support personnel. But if you learn how they're living and get to know them, and know their name, know what they do, know how their shop works, how their shop affects you. Guys don't do that. So if you go learn how battalion works or group works and where everybody's at and what everybody's doing, and they know you and you know them, This might sound bad, but you can manipulate those people to get them to do things that'll help your team accomplish their mission. And that'll further your standing on the team and the company with Sergeant Major. It'll help you in the long run if you just take the time to get to know your operational environment. And this is where you work. This is Garrison. This is 90% of where we are. And you just get to learn how the fucking unit that you're in works instead of staying behind your team room door. That's just my perspective, but I don't know if you agree.
No, I think that's a good lesson or piece of advice to guys that are going to be new guys soon. You know, like don't get stuck in the bubble of the Green Berets because they're only going to have so much to offer you or advise you on. You know, get outside of that, reach those other people, those other shops, and learn how the unit and the world around you works a little bit. It's definitely good advice because that was, you know, some of my experience. And 100%, man, I was able to, whether it's like a travel or a finance issue, like, you know, Steve, go up, knock on finance's door, and like I can go do that at group because they recognize me. And you know, it doesn't mean they're going to like immediately serve me, but they'll be able to answer my questions, point me to the right people, give me a resource in group, be like, oh no, don't call this number that you're supposed to call, right? Call this person, and it's like boom, you're just opening doors, right? So it's the whole like not it's the whole thing like not what you know but who you know. And as a Green Beret, you're you're only going to know the guys around you, right? And you don't need to necessarily know more Green Berets. Like it wouldn't hurt, right? But those enablers are the people that you could go, you know, go learn something from the E7 that's been an Intel E7 or E8, you know, that he's going to have a lot of experience and a lot of insight for you as a new person in group and or a new person in the army. Like those people are very valuable resources because they'll have a perspective that's different than the, you know, pipe hitter one, the Green Beret one in their lane as an 18 series. So yeah, man, people around you are a big resource when you're new.
Yeah. Initially, you're going to get that knee jerk reaction where they rip open the door, get up to your face, and go, "Who the fuck are you?" And then
Yeah.
the second time it won't be that way, and you'll be best buddies down the road, or you'll hate each other. One of the two. Same thing. Very
Yeah.
close, hating and loving one another. So we get out of HHC. You said you went to sniper school, but I had written down here that you went to space sniper school, Space Force sniper school.
No, it's probably just a typo.
Okay, because you, okay, I'll show
Yeah.
you the message after this. I was like, what the fuck? Because you said you did voice to text over it, and I
Yeah.
was like, that
So
can't be
I don't even
that
know what
can't
that
be
part
right.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I went to the SODIC at Fort Campbell
okay.
as when I was in HHC, which was really awesome.
Um, yeah, I'm just trying to look at it. Special, where it went to first. Yeah, went to the first Space Force sniper course at Fort
I was
Campbell,
supposed to say
Kentucky.
first Special Forces sniper course, like the first. There's like two levels, right? Or yeah, two levels. Um,
I'm googling Space Force sniper course and shit over here.
if that's an MOS or a place, I want to go be in it.
No, I mean I had questions. I was like, man, I want to hear about this shit. But damn, I'm disappointed that that's not a real thing.
Just the
Suck.
regular land-based sniper course.
He got me all excited. All right, so we do that. We go to a team. What's it like when you finally get to your team? Was it everything you thought it could be?
Man, no, this was when the anxiety started. This was when I was like, oh shit, the pressure's on. I'm the new guy. Uh, and it's time to perform, you know, like so I had when I got to my team, our team sergeant was leaving and a new team sergeant was coming in basically right alongside right after me pretty much. So there's some pretty big changes in the team, but the same core group of guys were there, you know, 4 or 5 of them um, had gone on trips recently together. And so, you know, my senior was amazing. He was really helpful. Did a good job of like, you know, not shielding me from the team at all. Like he would totally throw me to the wolves, but afterwards, you know, be like, you know, don't worry about it. This is what we need to do, right? So he was good at doing a senior diligence of, you know, mentoring me as a new guy. Um, but yeah, man, the new team sergeant was a new team sergeant, and yeah, so there was a lot to learn, right? Um, there's a big expectation. So that was my experience. This is what I'm expressing now. My challenge was I felt the pressure for really the first time. Like the queue, all those challenges, like I don't know, something about being a candidate and it being, like a pass or fail, like, there's no the stakes aren't really real yet. But when you already have the beret and you show up to a team and it's time to do the real job and you're looking at these other green berets, it's like, oh fuck, like this is the time. This is, time to show up. And I felt that really heavy. I think as during my time in, I always felt heavy, the obligation of performing really well, and meeting the standard. I don't know if it was like imposter syndrome or something, kind of, or a lack of confidence, but I felt that pressure of performing and making sure I didn't fuck up, because I did fucked up plenty of times. I've always fucked up. So, always trying to not be, when you're the new guy and you fuck up, you hear about it and they'll never let you live it down, right? Like my fucking we had three seniors when I showed up on my team, or three Charlies. My most senior Charlie was this fucking fat old guy who was getting out. Um, he's fat, and I can call him fat. He gave me a nickname that fucking stuck, so fuck him. We go out to the range, right? And MOS is the competition. So shooting, the Charlie shoot better or the Bravo shoot better, who wins? Well, I fucking shot like shit because I'm brand new at this anyways, and am not, should have done more shooting on my own. So I bring our Charlie team down, and he calls me boat anchor, and that fucking stuck for a while. So as a new guy, getting called fucking boat anchor, right? You're like, oh, I am fucking dead weight to this fucking team. That's great. Like these are the mental. This is an example of one of the challenges that you're gonna have to deal with as a new guy, and really, overcome that. Prove them wrong, right? Prove them you're not a fucking boat anchor. Work on those weaknesses and stuff. So it was daunting walking in to a team, getting a new team sergeant. I love the guys on my team. The guys to my left and right were fucking amazing. My team sergeant, he was a hothead. He could be a dick. So it things were definitely a challenge. But in that first year, basically 2 years, almost year and a half on a team before we went on our first trip together, um, it was a lot of like, man, like I would feel stressed getting up and going to work, because it was new. My job at HHC was easy. I show up to the office, help with airborne ops, right? Nothing's on the line. It was chill. It was really
Yeah.
chill. And then I go to a team and it's like, oh fuck, remember you're a Green Beret and like this shit's happening now. So it was definitely that rude awakening, probably that most people get when they get there, right? But mine was like, it was visceral.
Why do you want to perform? Because, there's the fear of failure, or there's you want to rise to the occasion. Why why do you think you got the nerves and you're like, I got to do this. I got to live up to this expectation. Why?
Um, I think that that's because that's something that I've always had. So I've been a competitive athlete my whole life. I raced motocross from the time I was 4 years old till I was, 18 as an amateur. So it was a really serious part of our life. And I played football and baseball, and I've always had the nerves. So I'd be sitting on the starting line at a motocross race and butterflies just roiling in my stomach, right? The anticipation. Still get that, on jumps, jumping out of airplanes. And so I don't know if it's, I just think it's natural, anxiety or butterflies, but it's because I put an expectation on myself, right? Like I don't like to lose. Like I was a sore loser my whole life. So maybe I kind of view things that way, right? Like it's like even things that maybe aren't a task or a competition or a challenge, like I view that way. I put that pressure on myself to perform. And that's honestly, I don't fucking know. That's who I am. That's been in my DNA as long as I can remember. I was a horrible sport when I lost in race and motocross, just a fucking baby. And, my wife would say that I'm still a poor sport. Um, but that's just because I think I put a lot of stock into performance, right? Or outcomes like that. So, I, uh, I also knew that, I knew of new guys that got put right to the B team, so I knew that there was always an option for them to be like, get the fuck out of here, you know, I was aware of that. And so I was acutely aware of like, I hadn't earned it yet. And I think, my team probably let me know that too, or at least some of them. And so I felt that pressure, it's a fear of mine, honestly, fear of fucking failing. And at that point in the game after, having pushed and worked so hard to get there. So,
Yeah, I know what you mean. And experiences, as I've said before, experiences may vary. There, not all teams. There are somewhere out there. There is the best ODA in group somewhere, and somewhere out there there is the worst one, and everybody else falls And they might interchange. They might, not be the top and not be the bottom. And when the team sergeants or team leaders switch out and things and guys move out. So they're always going to change, but the vast majority fall somewhere on that bell curve in the middle, right? And you could have a good team, a bunch of good guys, and you can have a bad team. Everybody's ready to get out. It's a young team, an old team, all kinds of shit. So don't get hung up. I try to say, don't get hung up on your first experience because you haven't even cracked the surface of all that's in group, right? Because you're just your head spinning for those first 3 years, and there's so much other shit out there that once you get established and people start knowing who you are, okay, we're gonna send Manners, or we're gonna send Ward, we're gonna send them to this and that, and do things. And you don't get discouraged if you don't get to do exactly what you thought you were going to get to do right away. Stick it out. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But I encourage people to see where it can take you because it's very rewarding, I think, once you get into it.
Yeah, man. I think that there's a lot of a team. An ODA is very dynamic in the sense of bodies coming and going. You know, you might have the same guys there for a couple years or a couple trips, but people are at different points in their career. So the timelines, things are always changing. And so it's very much in flux, you know. If you're on a team that you don't think is a great team, you know, be a fucking pillar of that team and potentially, you know, in a couple years as the tides turn, maybe it is a great team and maybe you fucking, you know, you were a part of that. I definitely know what it's like to have, you know, some it's like a common phrase, right? Like shitty leadership or you know, work with some bad apples or whatever. Like I think a lot of people have that. Like I'm not special because I had that experience. Those people are everywhere. Um, and it's just a challenge of a team, I think, environment. You know, it doesn't make it a bad ODA. It could definitely it could maybe make them a bad ODA. But it doesn't have to, and it's definitely like a challenge that you'll just run into anyways. You know, you have to weather some shitty leaders. You have to weather some dirtbags beside you, you know, and then you know, you can't focus on those guys. You gotta, you know, do you.
When was the first moment like you're on your team and you're like, I can't believe we get paid to do this shit?
Um, when we went on a probably went on. Well, I really enjoyed our PMT, so our pre-deployment training. We traveled to a different site, did some really cool training, driving four wheelers around for fun, basically, right? So getting vehicular training, but that just looks like ripping four wheelers around, you know, a prairie, like for a few hours. So stuff like that. Driving ranges were pretty fun. That's the one that stands out to me of like, man, really enjoying what I'm doing was getting to travel with the team and train with the team in a different environment than just being, you know, Garrison.
Yeah, it's a cool fantasy world, right? Because it's your real life, but it's also the pretend life. Like it's not. It's just something else. You're just completely detached from society, going out and just doing ops out in the woods or out in the desert or wherever the fuck you're going, and it sucks, but you got the boys with you and you're having a fun time. And then when it's over, you hit the bar and party a little too hard, probably, but for better or for worse.
Yeah,
What
best job
was
in the world.
I mean, what was your focus on your health, fitness, and recovery and nutrition and all that at this point?
It was definitely there. It's, you know, now being out, being a civilian, having gone to school for it, worked for it for years, obviously know a lot more and I'm applying a lot more of knowledge, right? That's kind of the thing about knowing the right answer. It doesn't matter if you don't apply it. So, um, it was good, man. I was in my own kind of training routine. I was one of the best performers physically on my ODA, which is not uncommon for new guys. Whether that's unfortunate or not, I don't know, you know, but, and so the fitness was there and was ironing out, you know, my personal routines as far as prioritizing sleep and always, you know, pretty much ate well. And so, was still drinking too much when I was on the team, that's for sure. So that was impeding my recovery and I wasn't as much of a runner as I am now either. So it could have been better that way, but, um, had a couple fit guys on my team too, so we did good of kind of holding each other accountable and to a good standard as far as not only training but recovering. A lot of my team had a lot of family guys on it too, so you know, very I don't even know if any of them weren't in a relationship. I don't know if I had any actually single guys on my ODA for that those first couple of years. So that also creates that's a, nothing wrong with being single, but family guys living the family life, we're usually a little more able to take advantage of recovery and not, doing foolish things or having an obligation to go home and, it might not be feel like rest, but you're going home instead of going and doing other things. So a good balance on the team. Wholesome group of fucking guys.
Yeah, majority rules on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you got a majority of guys that are single, then everybody else is going to act the same way
Yeah.
when they go out and things like that. Whether, we're going out and drinking or we're just out on the town or things like that. Oh, you get a bunch of families. Oh, we're probably going to chill out, tonight, guys. We'll see you on Monday. Well, that's probably the healthier route, but there's a mental aspect to it too. So there's a give and take for everything.
Yeah, it was a
What,
relief to show up and see the other family guys because I had a family myself at that time, and so it was a good mesh or match for me at the time. I really enjoyed the guys on my team. Like thinking back to those dudes, really good dudes, and it was a good fit at the time, which was nice. It made the challenging leadership a lot more sufferable because the guys left and right. I remember my Echo, my Bravo, my other Charlies, and my Deltas. Like it's a cool group of guys.
so why did you make the decision to transition out then?
Because actually, so your last guest, good guy, um, alluded to what would make him get out. Right, he says that his ultimate goal was to be a really good father and husband, and that the job demands a lot of the resources that he would rather spend on his family. That's what he said, and I concur with that. And that's the situation that had me get out. So I had an ex-wife now and kids with her, and I loved the job. It's amazing, but being a dad, I'm not going to say that like good guy. It was the highest calling of my life. I mean, it is, but that's not, almost like more of an obligation. Like for me, it was just obvious choice. Like I was like, no, that, the type of dad I need to be. And I know the time commitment now. I know what this job is like. And, I went on deployment and fucking bombs are going off and I'm thinking about my kids, right? Like, and I will forever stick with me, like guys that can do it, they're a special type of man, and we're all grateful for them. But I couldn't. It just wasn't for me, right? Like I wanted to be home, so I stepped away from the greatest job in the world because I wanted to be around for my family more. That was growing and be able to have more time with my kids, right? That's why I thought about, oh, I want to start my own business. I want to be, this was all coming back to taking my resources and having them to dispose in my kind of immediate life, right? And pulling back to do my thing, not the Army's thing. So, you know, 6 years, and then I got out.
Did you make the right decision now that you've been out for a bit?
Yeah, 1,000%, dude. 1,000%. My life has gone on an unforeseen trajectory with unforeseen challenges. Um, but it's been incredible. The doors that I wanted to find and open up, I found and opened up. I've been able to do what I wanted to do. Yeah, man. And so, my reasons for getting out for the family and for my kids and stuff, like there's a whole, that divorce was an atom bomb going off. That custody battle was an atom bomb. It's been absolute murder and bloodshed all over the place. It's the worst. It's as bad as it could go, basically. But in the midst of all of that, I have continued, right? Fucking one day after the other, met someone amazing, continued to pursue the things that I wanted to do with my career and spend my time and carve the fucking life that I wanted out myself despite these challenges. So it was absolutely the right decision. Do I daydream about fucking reenlisting? Yeah. do I do I have those times where I'm like, I'm going back to college soon. Maybe I'll just go, ROTC in the Air Force and go be a fucking 40-year-old Air Force officer. Like, wouldn't that be fun? There's that calling that, is always pulling me back and I'm always thinking about it. But my life right now is, man, it's clay in my hands and it's working. So I'm super grateful. I'm super happy about the decision I made. It would be great to still be in, that would have its own pros and cons, but super happy with my decision, man. And it's been a journey these last 7 years. It's been an absolute insane ride. But it's going good.
Good, man. I mean, yeah, and you still, the option's still there for quite a while. The National Guard will fucking always take you, I think, as
Yeah,
far as I,
I'm not broken enough. I could, but that's
yeah,
those are daydreams, anyways.
yeah, yeah. Fuck. Uh, I got 5 questions here for you, and I'll
Yeah,
cut you loose.
let's do it.
What is your response to thank you for your service?
Usually it's like, oh, thanks, you're welcome, or yeah,
Do you get a lot of that where
and
you're
then like
at?
an awkward silence, right?
Come on, man.
The good thing about working from home is I don't get many of those. Like, like I might have a sticker on my car, or we were at a local ice hockey game a few weeks ago with my nephew and some friends, and they do like a salute to service at halftime or whatever, where like all the veterans stand up, and it's like I'm not standing up. There's 10 people in here. Not that I always do that. Like I don't hide it. I will in the right environment. I'll take my pat on the back. It's whatever. But for the most part, the way I've cultivated my life, I don't fucking interact with anybody. I'm at home. I'm at the gym. I'm at the grocery store, or I'm at home. So sometimes I'll run into people at the retail store, the vitamin shop, and they might say something, and I'll just, whatever. You're welcome.
Have something queued up, especially if you're going to be a people person like you are,
Hmm.
working
Yeah.
with people. But all right, what's the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
They will ask for forgiveness, not permission. That's from the hip, but I think that's probably a pretty good answer, or at least one of them.
Hey, you're the first person to say that, and that is absolutely true. Um,
And
might
know
not
when
be
to
the
do that, you
might
know.
not be the best advice in the
Yeah,
course
you
because you're
got to
going to
use
get
it
your ass
tact.
dropped.
You got to use it tactfully, but that's what thinking outside the box is to me, right? That's what adaptability is like just being able to pull the trigger instead of hesitating or having unclear guidance. Because especially as a new guy, that's what you're gonna have is some fucking unclear guidance. As a Charlie, he handed me a property book and was like, "Go do an inventory." It's like I don't know what any of this shit is. How do I find this stuff out, right? So you have to be able to take like very minimal or no guidance and go and run with it and make all those decisions yourself. And that means fucking you might have to be okay with asking for forgiveness instead of fucking waiting around for permission.
Um, you just said inventory. After I got hurt, I went to the B team. I I was a fucking killer at inventories, man. I was a fucking murderer. Some guys are good shooting, other guys are, real good on their technical skills. Well, I'm fucking on the B team and I'm not allowed to do anything. Oh, I was a killer. I could inventory fucking with my eyes closed. So
Valuable asset, man.
it was good. I mean, I got to the point where the commander would walk up, look at it, look at me. Is it there? Yep. And then he would leave. Fuck yeah. So that's when you've arrived as a fucking B team Charlie. For the
Yeah.
guys listening at home, that's what real accomplishment looks like if you're on the B team.
Just getting a nod of approval on your inventory, saving everybody time.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo?
For fun or to fix and unfuck?
You could. It's not going to change where you are now if you change anything. It's just
It's
going to.
true. Um, no, man, I would go back to my deployment. Deployment had a lot of fun stuff. It was a training mission, a lot of working with your hands, and I really enjoyed working with our partner force and the training we were doing with them. It was very cool. It was the way we ran the classes through, worked with those guys, going out, smoking and joking with, you know, whatever, a couple hundred, local fucking people who live in the desert and like kind of living amongst them, right? Like that was a cool experience. As somebody, like I said earlier, who likes to travel, who likes to, meet other people from around the world, that was cool. Sketchy at times, yes, but enjoyed the cross cultural work and being out there with the guys. Just us and me and a few of the guys. Training these dudes. Every day, running them through a few cycles. So that was a fun few weeks, fun couple months doing that. I honestly would relive that again and enjoy every moment of it for sure.
Um, yeah, I miss out on that part, but we all go have our own experiences.
I'm sure they're not all as fun as in painting that one out to be, but
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Um, we were deployed, and I was taking basically a field trip back to a real garrison, a real unit. So we were downrange, but I was going back to a base that was well established, that was not in a combat zone. And my senior gave me advice. He said, "This is a good place for you to fuck up, for you to step on your own crank, right? Or do something that you're not supposed to do." He's like, "Just, going out on my own, basically. So you're Green Beret, solo traveling, like this is part of it." That was really good advice. It was an environment where, whether it's, going out and having too many beers, or, doing something stupid, it was just right that one of the things you're going to get as a new Green Beret is a ton of latitude, and one day that's going to settle on you, and you're not going to have anybody around you, and you're going to have to make your own decisions. You're going to be out in the wind with, just you in an environment, whether it's deployed or whether it's CONUS or whatever, and you're going to, you know, some are going to be harder to stay focused in than others. And that comes with the territory of being a Green Beret, whether it's fucking, MS, uh, embassy work, couldn't think of the damn word, or doing something else. Like, you're going to be out there on your own, man. And the way we described, guys acting in the Q course, going out drinking, cutting loose and stuff like that, like that takes on a whole new level of risk when you're a Green Beret, when you're actually doing the job. And so my senior basically just told me, he was like, this would be a good chance for you to fuck up. And I went, knocked out the trip, knocked it out, came back. But I saw that. I realized that, he was right.
And when you fuck up as a Green Beret, everybody hears about it.
Yeah, man. You don't want
All
to do
right.
that.
What were you afraid of then? And what are you afraid of now?
Oh man, I would say I was afraid of failing back then, but now I'm afraid of not doing more. It's pretty easy to get complacent. Um, I think of that contextually for me in like my personal life and my business and professional life. It's easy to get successful or to do what you want to do and then not move on to the next thing, right? Not grow bigger and just settle there. So, uh, yeah, man, I used to be afraid of failing, but now I'm afraid of not moving on to the next thing and getting stagnant, because it happens pretty easily. At least for me, everybody's different. It's easy for me to get comfortable. So my wife does this by challenging me. She always has. I've seen how that works, so I know my own nature about kind of settling a little bit, getting complacent, which is ironic because, Green Brace, like, don't get complacent, right? Be a hard charger. But it's something we all kind of deal with at times. It's easy to get comfortable. Big lions, right? They lay around and fucking sleep. So it's like fighting that is something that, I'm worried. I'm not worried, but I focus on making sure it doesn't happen.
I understand what you mean. All right, Stephen, nutrition and military fitness coach, transforming civilian soldiers and officers into capable hybrid athletes so they can crush their soft selection. How can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, man. Nutrition coach Steven, or type in Steven Manners in your search bar on Instagram, and you'll find me. That's my personal/business page. It's where you can reach me. You can also go to mensleaguecoaching.com, and that's where my website is. So you can get in touch with me there too.
Links to all of your socials in the show descriptions. You got anything for me?
No, man. Thank you for having me on. The podcast is great. Y'all got to listen to more episodes if you're just getting started with this one, and I'm looking forward to listening to more myself, dude. Thanks.
I appreciate you, sir. Bye, everybody.